again, like it sounds to me like AI is like a red flag because of the guru thing. Like if it knows all, which it does, right? Or like knows all that is out there and it thinks it knows the truth. I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that, like intimate conversations with it and asking it for personal advice.
I do it. I'm trying to find what it said about, because I noticed when I heard about this, right? I was like, went right to my chatbot. And I was like, do you think I'm vulnerable for AI psychosis?
You asked it? What do you think it's going to say to you?
Listen, it's insightful. So,
you are listening to the Say Something Serious podcast, a podcast about best friends and big topics. Thanks for joining.
Hi, welcome back to Say Something Serious with Mindy and Erin. We are back from a long break. Erin got married in June. She had her honeymoon. We've been soaking up a little bit of summer. And now we're back to talk about a couple of things that have been on our minds lately. Do you want to share a little bit, Erin, about what we're going to discuss today?
Sure. I think as we've had some time to reflect over our episodes and the interviews we've done, we've been thinking a lot about spiritual discernment and also discernment within spiritual content creation, and how we feel like as an audience that we want to build trust with you, and we want to talk about, the spiritual discernment that we use, how we feel about the interviews that we have, and whether or not we're 100% endorsing all the ideas that we're exposing our audience to. We just think it's like an important thing to talk about because there is so much spiritual content now, and we are adding to that ecosystem by becoming podcasters in this space. And we want to, have clarity between each other and with you guys about how we ground ourselves in that and how we can be expansive and open-minded and still safe, I guess, in that environment.
Yeah. It feels kind of like an ethical obligation to talk about what we're going to speak about today without judgment, but that I think we kind of both have taken it for granted that we think very critically about things. And while we don't push back a lot on people and we're like positive, maybe in future episodes there might be a little bit more questioning from our part in a non-judgmental way, but to get more clarity and understanding maybe. But I think a lot, like we've joked about things over the last couple of months that we think are funny, and then we realize maybe there are people who might be actually more impressionable and more likely to fall into believing some of the spiritual stuff that we can easily kind of like brush off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and my relationship with it is complicated. Like, I believe that all of it's real for the people that are experiencing it and it's resonating with, but that doesn't make it all real for me, if that makes sense. Like, I don't necessarily question, say, if somebody comes on and talks about their galactic ancestors from another planet. Like, I believe that's real for them, and I believe that that is the way that Source is communicating their spiritual enlightenment with them. But that doesn't mean that that is my path or real for me. And I just want to help people sort of be able to take that stance, be able to do what we do, which is like dive into sort of people's wild theories and beliefs and modalities and take from them what resonates with us, but not fall into this idea that any one person or any one modality is the answer to your spiritual development.
Like, while it can be true, and it can be true for this person and it's very real in their experience, it is not the ultimate truth. I don't really believe that there is one truth that should serve us all. I think part of what we want to do with this podcast is share different experiences that people have and create an open-minded community where we kind of freely explore all of these thoughts and ideas, again, without judgment, but really encourage our audience to say, like, does this feel right for me? No, and that's okay. And not that this is like we're giving you answers or we're giving you facts. We're just sharing ideas, really. But it feels like a responsibility to kind of remind anyone who's listening to this that you should always look within to kind of decide what feels right for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
The definition of spiritual discernment is the spiritual inner compass that recognizes what resonates with your soul and what does not. In the spiritual space, I think there are different ways and people can choose, sort of I guess the discernment tests that work for them. But one that you and I have discussed before is dependency and empowerment are huge for me. Like, does this make me feel stronger or does it make me feel weaker? And does it make me feel more independent or more dependent after I
Hmm.
accept what somebody is saying? And I think those, for me, those are the two most powerful. Like, if I listen to a teacher and whatever they say, and I feel worse about myself when I leave, I don't feel stronger or like I have more answers about how to untie. Often they're hitting on something real, right? But,
Hmm.
I don't really resonate with some of these tough love. I came across a video the other day that was talking about how spiritual people are lazy. And just the way that she was speaking, I think there's a truth in there about how often to choose a spiritual life, you're choosing a slower life, right? You're choosing to be more in the present moment, right? It
No, I
is
don't.
sometimes the opposite of hustle culture to choose spiritual
Yeah, like
culture.
having some groundedness. Yeah, right.
Right.
Like not being pulled away by life and the expectations of society.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think the point she was trying to probably get at is that, like, there is work in spiritual development, right? But I immediately was like, oh, I feel disempowered by you. Like, I feel attacked. I don't feel, like there's a way to motivate people. And maybe that works for some people. For me, I was like, oh, I don't really want to listen to you. Like, I don't like that kind of antagonistic language about myself, right? Like, I agree. The
Yeah.
spiritual journey is work, just like the mental health journey is work, right?
Hmm.
It requires effort to do. But I just don't, I don't resonate with that type of disempowering coaching, I guess. Um, and to me, that's a red flag, right? Like, this whole like break you down to build you up is very culty. It's like a classic cult sort of tactic, right? Is to make
Yeah.
people feel like they're broken so that you can tell them that you are their healer.
Right. Like planting seeds of doubt that you know what's right for you, or like
Right.
judgment towards yourself, which is going to make you feel like you need someone to tell you how to do it right.
I also think certainty is a red flag.
God, the biggest red flag, which we're gonna kind of like have to circle back. I want you to say what you have to say. We will have to circle back to the Joe Dispenza episode because I feel like we joked a lot in that episode about like it being a cult, and actually there probably is some truth to that. But because of my spiritual discernment and like being able to take and leave what feels right and what doesn't, I realized that like I might have missed a whole piece that should have been addressed. So we'll come back to it, but the certainty piece is big there.
Yes, anybody who believes that they have access to the entire truth, and for me, I hate to go out on a limb like this, but like I would go so far as to say, like, Jesus. Like, that when I read the holy books, I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, this, you sound like a cult leader. Like, anytime you're like, I got it all. I'm not a believer that any one human being is capable of holding the whole truth of the ever expanding universe. I believe that if we're lucky, we get glimpses of pieces of truth. And that if it's in your path and your journey to share those, then that's a service that you give to the world. But whenever anybody is like, I have the whole thing and you don't need anything but me, if you follow me, I will show you the way, to me, that's a red flag. And you see that in organized religion, Jesus, Muhammad, you know what I mean? And you see it on a small scale. Your yoga teacher, the creepy lady that runs the magic shop in your town. I can't tell you how many magic
Not
shop
my yoga
owners.
teacher. I'm just saying.
Not, no, no,
Not,
not. I'm being
no, no, not
pejoratively.
mine. Just
Not,
like
yeah,
right. There could
right.
be
Like
like
anybody's
some
yoga
guru
teacher,
type
like you see,
mentality.
yes, where
Yeah.
you're like, yes, let me draw you in. I know the truth, and I can teach you the truth if you follow me, if you pay me, if you make sacrifices for me, and I will show you everything. You will know all. It's probably a lie. I do think we've had the pleasure of having a lot of guests on our show that do have a lot of humility,
Yes. Well,
right? Like
yeah. And
we're
I
not
hope we
attacking our
continue.
guests at all.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, no. I hope we can continue to have that kind of luck, like with the people that come on that are first human and then like have this experience that they want to share with the world, but they're not afraid to say, like, I also am a human being that has doubt. I also am a human being that has some like imposter syndrome, or I question things, or I'm not sure. And then I learned something new, right? Like, I don't think we've had anyone that feels like they know the whole answer and the only answer. I just want to make sure that we are not promoting that to be the way. Like everything that we're questioning because we're curious and we want to know and we want to see what's out there and we find it kind of fun, right? Like this is something we're interested in, but we don't ultimately believe that you should believe anything except for what is right for you. And we just hope to share knowledge and joy and like meet interesting humans.
And if you stay grounded, and we can talk about different ways to do that, it's okay to step into some of these belief systems and try them on. I have done that
Mhm.
my whole life, right? Like there were
Yeah.
years of my life where I was Hindu or Buddhist or Christian or, really into meditation or really into, mediumship. Like it's a journey and it's okay to try it on. Like that's kind of what we do, right? Like and just because you take it off doesn't mean you think it was a lie or it was useless. But it was a part
Right.
of your journey for that part of your life, right? Like whatever I needed to learn about the nature of the universe from Brahmanism that took me 5 years to learn. I learned it. And then my soul, my spirit, whatever, was like, okay, now let's find out what other truths are out there for you to learn
Like
and
you're
grow
leaving
with,
room
right?
for expansion. There's always room for expansion. There's always room for
Yes.
growth. There's always room for looking to see what else you can be curious about. Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to hold it for some people, it doesn't mean like, I don't have to hold it at arm's length in order to make sure that I'm still grounded and I can get out. And that's a practice. That's something I've practiced over 30 years of being in this space is being like, yeah, I'm not going to meditate and think to myself, well, I'm not really going to believe it. No, I'm going to meditate like I think that I might meet the source, like the guy in front of me is telling me. I'm going to believe it and see what I can get out of the experience, right? But when I walk out and I'm back with myself, I will say, okay, was that empowering? Did I feel like that person was trying to make me dependent? Do I feel better? What truths did I take? Right?
Yeah. Do you have more red flags that you want to share, or should we jump into the Joe Dispenza piece?
Let me see. So, their integrity, I think, is important. I think that is a place where a lot of people have been burned, where they have
Mm.
gone all in on a certain guru or spiritual creator and then found out something about them that morally disagreed with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you should always keep in mind that you don't know these people's lives, right? Like how many, I have books on my shelf that, now I make it a habit when I buy a book to see whether or not this yogi was caught, sexually harassing or molesting people later on. I mean, it's such a pattern, it's unbelievable how many times you're like, oh, this person ran a quasi Hindu cult in the 70s in the United States, and then now he's in jail for exploiting child labor and taking 16 wives at the age of 14. Like it's a real thing. And so definitely doing your research about what you can find out about these people's character. It doesn't mean you necessarily don't have to read their work, but you take that information with you so that you don't have that spiritual letdown, that feeling of betrayal that sometimes people get when they realize that they've been putting their spiritual health in the hands of a person who doesn't morally stand up to their standards.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about like narcissistic personality traits, those are people who know how to find a vulnerable population. And unfortunately, a lot of them come to the spiritual community looking for guidance, looking for support, looking for love and a sense of belonging. And so you can be exploited if you're not careful about how you approach it and how you interact with it. And how quickly you give your power away, and not intentionally, not intentionally. I think it can be like a habit to, I don't want to say habit, but like there's a tendency to want to believe and then to be all in and put yourself maybe in situations or positions where you're more vulnerable and you don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to know, like, religions from the beginning of time have been exploiting the search for meaning in people that are at a low point, right? Like, it's really hard to overstate that. That, like, how, that's why the churches feed the homeless on some level. You know what I mean? Like reaching people at their darkest. That's why we do, there are other, I'm sure they will tell you there are other reasons they preach in prison but when people are at their most vulnerable spiritually is when you are most able to convert them into an intense religious belief system.
Well, I mean, when you think about cults, what do? Like these like week-long retreats away where everybody's underslept and like at the brink of ultimate vulnerability because they're sleep deprived and delusional and desperate. And then that's where they get them, like in cults. I'm not talking about religion, but like that is a technique,
100%. We should have a cult expert on sometime
Yes, we
and sort
should.
of go through this.
Someone who does like
Even the
deprogramming
major,
or something
this
like
stuff
that,
has been known for so long, and I'm not trying to harp on it, but it is a microcosm of the macrocosm of the cult like experience in major religions, like including fasting and sleep deprivation. Like all this stuff is in the holy books too. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're like self-flagellation, whippings, like all of this stuff is in Buddhist texts. I mean, it's like wild, right? Like there is an ancient belief system that these things will bring you to God, but they're also now, that we can talk in psychosocial terminology, ways in which to enforce mind control, depending on the severity of it, right?
Yeah. I think another kind of ethical thing that we've seen happen recently, when you're talking about like the person being, I guess, like ethically considerate, right? Like if you're like getting spiritual advice from someone, you want to know that they're a good person. They want you to be empowered. They want what's best for you. Something I'm seeing a lot and like hearing is these people who are doing these online courses where you have like a year-long commitment or a 2-year-long commitment, right? And then you're financially locked in. And at some point you're like, oh, this isn't resonating with me. I don't want to do this anymore. Can I get my refund? No. Like they're charging your credit card every month. That is not spiritual growth, right? That is not empowerment. That is a scam. And there's
Yeah,
a ton of it. There's a ton of it, right? Like
a
you're
lot
locked
of
in
them.
and they don't care. They don't
Right.
want you to grow. They want their money.
Yeah.
That's it.
And at the end, right? Like, did you watch any of the Scientology documentaries?
No, but I'm going to have to. No, I'm going to have to.
Because
I
they're
watched
probably
like
going
the
to come
Duggar
after us now.
stuff.
It's terrifying. They're terrifying people. They're a terrifying organization. But they kind of invented this self-help to cult pipeline. Like the way
Mhm.
that they start is they like get people on the street and say like, do you want to be more focused? Do you want to be happier? Are you feeling, and they give them self-help
Well, and isn't it like a tier
stuff.
system? Like
And
you have
it's a
to.
pyramid scheme. You have to keep like getting up and up and up and giving more and more and more, and then you'll unlock the next one. And these subscription based and long contract spirituality things are a lot like that. Like I guarantee you at the end you're supposed to buy the next one.
Yeah.
And maybe this, does come back, right? We wanted to talk about Joe Dispenza a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
once you have to do the weekend long to get to the week long.
To the
And
week
once you get to the
long.
week
Yeah.
long, like I'm sure there's
There's
another
like then
step.
there's a 10-day. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So like, I think it's a good time to talk about it now. Your mom brought me to his work was profoundly helpful for me. Like what I was absorbing, the content that I was absorbing were these like podcast interviews, kind of short But the message of those, right, was that you don't need anything outside of you to kind of heal what you would like to heal. And I don't even believe that either. I believe in medical care. I believe in therapy. I believe in medication. I believe in being educated and making good choices for yourself, and you can think critically about those things too, but I do believe that there are many pieces to the puzzle of wellness, and I don't think that like you should cut everything else out. And I think I immediately can discern that when I absorb his content and say, like, okay, like, let me get, like you said, like, let me put my belief into this and get the most out of it that I can. But I also believe other things too. And absorbing this doesn't make me not want to believe all my other stuff. I don't even think I'm being clear, but I think I got a lot from it. And I went to that weekend long retreat and it was amazing. And I learned something about myself there that was beautiful and powerful and transformational, really. And I think so much so to the point that I'm like, I actually don't need to go back. I actually am good. I don't need to hear from you anymore about how you know what the next right thing is for me. Because now I'm getting the emails, right? And I'm getting like more of their content that they're sending out to people. And it's like, I have the formula, right? Like that's what he's saying now. I have the formula for like how to heal your life and what's right for you. And that message itself for me is very disempowering. I think when he was saying like tune into yourself, be with your body and like notice the energy around you and all of the other practices that I was working on were very positive. And now there's a shift. He's got a bigger following now. He has people coming to retreat after retreat after retreat.
You met some of them.
I met some of them and they're, like they have amazing stories. And I think that's great. But I don't think it's the end of their story. Like this is
Yeah.
a point in time of their story, and great if they have wonderful healing and all of that, but I don't know what else is happening in their life. I'm only hearing these like positive bits and pieces, but it's just enough for me to say I got so much out of it and it was beautiful, and I'm ready to put that down and like pivot and learn something else now. I think he's gotten too toxic in his messaging of like my way is the way,
Way.
right?
And
I
I,
can
I
cure
honestly
you
don't
of
think all
anything.
these people do this maliciously. I think
No,
the
I think he's
feedback
on to
loop.
something beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the feedback loop of so many people idolizing you and so many people telling you that you changed their life and that you've given them the formula that has done X, Y, and Z for them. Any human being is vulnerable to that going to their head, essentially. Right? And for it
Believing they're
shaping their
special.
worldview. Yeah.
Yeah, that they know something
Yeah.
that they want to share with everyone. But I think what I'm getting from him now is like, I know the thing, not I know a thing. Like, I know something that can help you. Here, tune into yourself, be with yourself, get to know yourself. Now it's like, come to my retreat. I will give you the formula. Come to the next retreat. We're up another level. Like, I'm like, okay, there's levels here. I'm not doing it. The weekend retreat
Yeah.
is amazing.
Now that it's a
but
pyramid scheme. Right.
And now that I'm getting content that isn't just like the public online, what everybody else is getting, like
Yeah.
I get the
They think
emails
you're
or
in.
whatever, that I'm like, I got the ick. I think it's like the ick, right? Like I'm just like,
I've gotten the ick. I've followed people for a long time and then all of a sudden gotten the ick. And I think that's your body, right? Talk about like yourself, like listening to your own feedback. The ick
mhm.
is literally your body saying, or your soul letting your body know through its emotions, you got to back up. You got to, yeah,
Yeah.
it's time to like not go all in on this. And
that
it
being
happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was talking to this psychic that I work with sometimes out of LA, and we were talking about like how funny it is, this phenomenon of magic shop owners and seeing them like turn into these sort of like mini cult leaders in their communities.
Mhm.
I am certain 80% of those people went in as like consumers who wanted to share, incense and crystals and moon magic with their community. But 3 years later, I swear to God, if you do a study on these people,
They're a
they're
guru.
a guru. And part of it is that people come in there and start to worship them. And even if that wasn't their
Vulnerable
intention when they
people who want
began,
to know more, right?
and they don't realize they're also susceptible. They're susceptible to becoming these versions of themselves that they didn't want to become, because these susceptible people are then hero worshiping them. And the ego loves that. No matter how much work you think you've done on your ego, like when people start to tell you you're special, you're life changing, your connection to God is so much more legitimate than anybody else's, like your ego is going to fire up on 100 and be like, yes, 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 we love this. This must be true. This feels so good. It must be true. Right?
Yeah, you're just like bringing me in another little bit of a direction that I feel like maybe we won't speak about today, but we do need to come back and go into spiritual discernment within yourself in a future episode, right? Like everybody talks about, I get messages from spirit and how to discern what are your thoughts from what are your intuitive hits. Right? Because like these people might be internalizing this information and being like, oh yeah, like I'm getting messages, right? I don't know. Like the whole world of spirituality can tie you up in a weird place really quickly if you're just not careful about being grounded and not making too much of one thing.
Yeah. And people want it. I think there's two things at play. There's the fact that these people are exploiting vulnerable people, and the fact that like vulnerable people are asking to be exploited on a lot of levels. Like they're saying, save me. You're the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is affecting the way these people who might have come to the work for the right reasons end up sending emails saying, I have the formula that can change anybody's life. Like I don't think Joe Dispenza came into this work for the wrong reasons. Do you know what I mean? And I think that about most of the spiritual people that I encounter. Like I think they come into it genuine, and then something happens.
And I'm not discrediting the work either. I think like what you said is like you can absorb what you want to as long as you're comfortable with it until you're not comfortable anymore. And it doesn't mean you were bad or wrong or stupid or whatever. Like I got something huge out of that. And now I'm ready to say, okay, like that's enough. And I'm going to pivot and learn something else now. You know, it's okay to
And that
change your
is the
mind.
discernment. That's listening to yourself, right? Your body is giving you feedback about whether or not something is still on your path. And if you start to feel bad, uncomfortable, or icky about what you're hearing, you should trust that just as much as you trusted the good feelings that that person gave you. Because what I think happens is you get to this place where like, wait, but they gave me so many good feelings. I shouldn't trust the bad ones. I shouldn't trust the doubt. I shouldn't trust the ick. But it's like, no, if you learn to trust yourself, you trust both.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk more about that personal discernment as like a healthcare or a mental health person? What would you coach people to do?
I mean, I wouldn't coach. This is never advice. But I guess just like looking back on how elated I was feeling after that retreat and how much we laughed about it being a cult made me feel a little bit guilty, I think is what I feel. That I think we're so comfortable trusting ourselves and moving on and letting things, taking what we are comfortable with and leaving the rest. Like that whole thing that I think you and I have worked really hard to be grounded and trust our own self. I just felt, I think, a little bit of guilt about laughing, like, oh, you joined a cult. Like, yeah, I joined a cult. But like, actually, there is kind of a cult like component to it now where I don't know if there always was. But now that he's getting so much traction and such a following, that I just want to like circle back and say, maybe I was a little bit wrong, you know, to joke about that. I still, again, I'm so happy I went. I got so much out of it. It was a beautiful experience. And I was there with a friend. So we had a blast, you know, but trust yourself, you know, like if even the fact that we were
And
joking about that, like
find
oh
a
my
buddy.
God.
That's the other thing.
Yes.
Find a buddy.
Yeah.
There's a new season of something called Shiny Happy People on Amazon, and it's a documentary series
That's
about
the
different
Ducker one, right?
cults. Yes, but the new season is about,
More seasons. Okay.
I forget what the overall cult is called, but they did these things called Acquire the Fire. and they were like concerts for Christian teens. And I went to one. And I'm listening to them
Wait, you
talk
went to
about
one in
it.
real
And
life?
yeah, my youth group went to Acquire the Fire. And it
What
was
youth
a
group?
reading, the one in Showmark that I was in. And
Taffy. Not Taffy.
no, no,
Okay.
the one in Showmark before the one at the
Okay.
Methodist church that I grew
Okay.
up in. I remember weeping. Like I must have been in the 5th grade when I went. And I remember all the things in this documentary. I remember them talking about the mission trips and how they were saving the souls of the Africans and all, like this giant, it's like a Lady Gaga concert, but for Christ. Okay. So it's like pyrotechnics, like inspirational speakers. It's like mega church before mega churches were even a thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I was you sleep on the ground, you travel really far to get there. They have you praying in a room with thousands of other teenagers about, God loves you and he forgives you for how terrible you are. Right. And I remember like weeping and in that moment being willing to do anything this man said. And it was my youth group leader, my pastor at the time, who was like, no, we're leaving.
Wow.
And I remember being like, huh. Like she immediately I was like euphoric. And we got back in the van and she was like, we're not signing up. We're not throwing away all of our CDs. We're not doing any of the things that they just asked us to do. We're leaving. Like she clocked it. Thank God. Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I was in the 5th grade, I wasn't like in a position to be joining the cult anyway, because I was still a minor. But she, in a way
that's
that
like
I
the
was
planting
not.
of the seed, right? They put a seed in and it went in. And
Yeah.
somebody
And I
close enough to you was able to be like, no, right?
Yeah. Well, she took us all. She was like, yeah, that was fun. We're not going back next year. Like she clocked it right away.
Yeah.
Thank God she was a cool pastor. Methodists, New England Methodists are pretty sort of liberal and intellectual. It's like it's not Southern Baptist. And she clocked it in a way that none of us did as kids. And she saw, oh my God, this is a giant cult, right? But ever since then, I have seen people replicate that experience. Right. So the first time I've seen this experience was in the 5th grade, but I have seen dozens of times people use this method of like, yes, when people join together, even if it's 10 people in a meditation group, right? And you have this collective spiritual experience that's emotional, there is a vulnerability there that somebody, usually a man, will try to exploit in that moment, right? And I've seen it happen over and over and over again in yoga classes, in meditation groups, at magic shops, in religions, in YouTube followings, like all of these different places. And it's all the same thing. And I think the place that I get to is it's not because it's fake. It's because it is real. The experience of sharing emotional vulnerability and connecting spiritual energies to create some intention on the planet creates an actual phenomenon. Call it, group manifestation, call it the Holy Spirit, call it whatever it is that works with the religious views that you are working with at the time. It's a real phenomenon. I have had meditated with people that were in my mind while we were meditating. I've come out and they have told me what was in my mind over the last hour that they saw. You know what I mean? It's real.
Yeah, I think this is like a great way to open up talking about the telepathy tapes, right? And the universal consciousness and like the stream of consciousness. And I mean, this can be a weeks long episode, right? If we really want to get into it. But I think what you're saying is there is something that happens if you've been in these type of groups, right? Like which we both have, where you're like, okay, something
Magical.
magical is happening, right? Like how do you explain it? You can't, but like when it happens, you're like, all right.
Right. And the
We just had the
discernment
same
comes.
experience and it was kind of a bizarre experience, but we're both explaining the same thing. And like Yeah, it's hard to, right? You can't.
The discernment comes, right? Is that when you have those experiences, there's always someone there. Not always. If you're in the right spaces, there isn't always, but often there is someone there to say, I know what it was. My ego and my mind has come up with an explanation for this, which I would like to offer for you to absorb and agree with me on. And when you've had that experience in all these different spaces, through all these different belief systems, you end up sort of where we are, which is that, like, yeah, well, the phenomenon is real. Your explanation is your opinion
Yes.
of
Can,
its
can I
meaning.
I feel like this just the only way to explain how I view the world is I believe everything and I believe nothing. Does that make sense? Like,
Please,
I believe it all and I absolutely don't believe any of it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't believe any of it is the only thing. That sounds
yes,
horrible. I sound like I'm out of my mind. Like, I believe that there is something real happening, but I don't believe there's a way that we all can explain what it is,
right.
you know? That no
Even
one
like,
of us has all the answers. It's like, I believe it. I believe there's something more than what this material interaction is that we have with each other. But I don't have like one single belief that thinks it can explain it all. That might be a better way of saying it.
right. And when you're a seeker, right, on
Mhm.
any level, I would extend this to like scientists. When you're a seeker, philosophers, right, you are on a mission to make sense of the world around you, spirituality, and the phenomenons that we experience, right? And there's always going to be a part of you that really wants to get the answer, right?
Mhm.
But even like, I go back to like the Bhagavad Gita, where like the truth is, it's so much more wild and incomprehensible than our human brains will ever really comprehend. So, like things like string theory and, the idea that we're all in a, what's the word for it?
Like in a matrix or a
Yeah, like we're in a
like a
matrix,
simulation, like simulation theory or
simulation
yeah.
theory, or right? Like they're not wrong, but they're not fully right. They're finding like a
They're
way to
theories.
explain a portion of the phenomenon that is life.
Mhm.
And I personally love it. Like, that's why we do this podcast. That's why we do this work, is that, like, I want to hear everybody's theories. I want to
Yes.
use the research and the thinking that they've done to expand my own thinking about what the universe is and what our experience is here. But, like you said, nobody is ever has the whole thing.
Right. And that's where like we know it's a red flag if someone is like, I can tell you everything you need to know and I have all the answers. I just don't believe you.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten all the way in on a cult and had to, like, bring yourself back?
No, I mean I think it's probably a benefit to me that I didn't grow up in organized religion. You know? Like my mom is Catholic, but not heavily practicing. My dad, I would say, was probably, I don't know, like atheist, I guess. Like very against belief. Like he was a real materialist, very concrete, very limited. So I think I always just had the sense that I was connected to something, but I didn't have any concrete belief for it and it was never fed to me. So I feel like developing from a very young age the belief that like I can just feel connected in the way that I need to. And for me, it was nature. I love trees. I loved being by the ocean, right? Like those were the ways that I connected. I feel like I always grew up with a sense of like, oh, I can do this. I don't need it from out there. I think that helped me a lot. What about you? And maybe a little Joe Dispenza, a little slip in
Yeah.
and a little pull
A
out.
little slipping. They almost got you. They almost got you.
For that, like I learned so much, and then I learned something about myself. Like I don't actually need this.
Yeah.
Still a really cool experience, and I'm curious. I'm curious to see what happens in those week longs, but then I'm like, I don't want to go any further.
You want to, yeah, end up.
I'm good.
I mean, I would trust you. Like, if you felt
I
like you
trust them
wanted to,
too. I do.
yeah, like, I trust you to go in and not come out and be like, Joe is the only way. But you should think about that, like, as if you're listening to this.
Yeah.
That is the question.
Like, if you don't
are
trust yourself to be able to be like, oh no, like, oh, this is amazing and let me see what I can get out of it. And oh, I got so much from it. And now, like, I see something about it that I don't like and I'm ready to put it down just because of that red flag, right? The
Yeah.
work is beautiful. The messaging really is beautiful. A lot of like the earlier stuff that I consumed, but now it's a slippery slope, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about
Wait,
the
have
telepathy
you?
tapes.
Yeah.
Well, my mom is very susceptible. Shout out, Sally. I love you so
She
much.
told me about Joe Dispenza. Thanks, Sally, though, because I am
Yeah.
grateful.
Like, my mom is a seeker and she has, like, but in some ways she's taught me discernment by watching her go in and out. Like, I think as a kid, we were in the Church of the Nazarene for a while,
I've never
which
even heard of that. I don't even know what that is.
is a really intense. I don't know what it's like now, but in the 90s, like on Easter, they nailed somebody to the cross and like the blood was gushing and people spoke in tongues. Like, it was very intense.
Whew. Oh,
I
feel like I
think
have to shake that
probably
off.
like the cult that I was in for the longest was like the alt-right, right? Like, when I was a kid, I was also like very deeply indoctrinated into conservative politics. And that's its own
Mhm.
kind of cult with like belief systems and beliefs about America and and I still now, like, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat, I'm a lot of other things now. I still hold some of those worldviews because they were so intense in shaping how I saw the world as a child. In the same way that I see, like, my mom was raised Catholic, right? And she is a seeker and she believes all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, she's like, but Jesus is my Lord and Savior and the only way. And, Hail Mary, full of grace. Like,
Mm.
she cannot, she's got this like internal thing where she cannot ever question Catholicism, right? And I think I carry,
Indoctrinated fear, right?
yeah, totally, totally, right. I have
But
some
I
of
mean,
those indoctrinations that I think like I carry with me, but I'm not in those cults anymore.
I want to say this because I feel like I do believe in people's right to follow religion. Like, it's not for me. Clearly, it's not for you. I don't think everyone who follows religion has bad intention. And I want to be kind of clear about that. I think we have a lot of negative things to say about it. But I also think that there are parts of it that really keep people in a good place for them, if that makes sense. Right? Like, take the good with the bad. But like, I don't want to feel like we're judgmental about that because I know a lot of people who are Catholic and they're good people, you know.
Yeah.
I don't like the structure of the system. I don't like the beliefs of the system. They're not for me. But I want to say, because we like do bash on religion a lot. I respect people's right to like believe that there's something more and follow what they're comfortable with for now. As long as it's not like spewing hate, then fuck you. But
Yeah.
I know. It's tough because I think a lot of it does spew hate if that's what you choose to believe in. But I think for a lot of people who are where they are in what they have been able to learn about and consume is like, I'll take the positive beliefs of this and I'll leave the rest. And I don't believe the rest. And people have the right to do that.
100%. I take sort of if I'm 100% honest, a little bit
Hmm.
of a condescending view on it that I get from Hinduism, which is that like every human being is here on a different track of spiritual development, and that the Christian track, for example, is a legitimate one, and that like we've probably as souls all been on it. Like, that there are lessons that you learn through being a Christian through your lifetime that every soul goes through, probably multiple times, because I think we have thousands of lives, right? And so if someone's on their Christian path, their journey on this planet this time, and their lessons are in the Holy Bible, then that is where they're supposed to be, if that makes sense. Now, like you said, like, that doesn't, for me, that doesn't excuse like the hatred and the homophobia and some of the bad aspects of, say, Christianity specifically in this country. But that's how I look at the legitimacy of the Christian experience, for example, is that like that is their path this lifetime.
See what you're saying. I see it in a more complex way of like, can accept that there are people who were raised Catholic and there's something special about it to them, and that that's what they were given as a way to believe in something bigger than themselves, and that's what they're working with, right? And so that they do believe in maybe like angels or God or something that has us all connected in some way, right? Like brothers and sisters, isn't that the language? I don't even know that much about religion, but I believe that people can accept the beauty of that and have the spiritual discernment to say, like, but this other shit is not for me, like the homophobia and the hatred, right?
100%.
And I can accept that that's where people are because that's what they've been given to work with. And then that's, if you're raised a certain way your whole life and you're working a certain way your whole life and your focus is somewhere else and this is all you have and you haven't spent your life to devoted to understanding what else is out there in spirituality because of maybe the guilt or the shame or what you've been taught. I accept that there are people who are Catholic and good and people who are Christian and good. And it doesn't just go one way or the other. And I know that's hard because I also believe that there is like a very dangerous part to organized religion, the hate and
Against discernment, right? Like
discernment.
you can be
Yeah.
discernment. You can be in those organizations. I think I joke a lot specifically about Catholicism because I come from thousands of years of generation on both sides of my family of Irish Catholics. And so, the funny things that my mom does, like, we're manifesting, but like, I'll be
But like
talking
only a
about what
little.
I believe. Yeah, like I'll be talking about what I believe, and my mom will have to finish the conversation of like, but she believes in Jesus as her savior. And I'm like, who are you telling that to? Like, it's like she needs to make sure that my ticket to heaven is still good
Mhm.
after we have a spiritual conversation, which is like so culturally Catholic. It's funny, right?
Yeah.
My mom met Jesus in her near death experience.
That's right. That's right.
And we know another person that met Jesus in there that we interviewed her.
Why am I drawing a blank
Janine.
right now?
Janine
Met Jesus?
had, yeah, remember Jesus was in her vision about her brother-in-law or something?
I don't
Oh,
remember.
maybe she didn't tell that story on
In
air.
the dream, she did. I think she
Yeah.
did. But if she didn't, let's delete this for
Yeah,
privacy
no, I
reasons.
think she
But I think
shared
she
it.
did. She shared the story about the dream.
Yeah.
I don't remember
And
Jesus being a part of it, but my brain is.
When my Jesus picked my mom up after she was hit by a car, like in her near-death experience. So you're never going to be able to tell my mom Jesus isn't real. And I'm not here to say Jesus isn't real. I think that, again, for me, I'm not this is the only way person. That's not my journey in this lifetime.
Yeah, me either. And I guess part of what I believe is like, who am I to judge what anybody else's way is? I can decide whether or not I let them in my life, but I'm not going to judge where they are. It's not my place. And it's going to like just take up my own emotional space.
I'm like more critical than usual because I am in the process this year of reading all the holy books. So I've read the Torah.
I'm not doing that.
And I'm reading the Quran. And I read the Bible while I was a Christian, but I'm going to reread, the New Testament from like a critical space. And that's just like a project that I'm doing right now. And those books are bananas. And so it makes you, when you start to talk about it, you sound really cynical, but it's like, they are bananas. Like you're talking about men who are 642 years old having 147 children, and they're naming every single one of them, and you're just like, what are we doing? This is bananas. Like, these are the books that these faiths are based on, and I want to be able, honestly, to, when I am challenging people about these beliefs, say that I've read them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not just like read about them. And so I'm in the middle of that project, which makes me like, you would not believe what these people say about, like a lot. There's a lot of inconsistencies in the holy books. A lot.
I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing that you want to understand before you make the judgments, and then you'll make your judgments. But we're different, right? Like you and I are very different people. We live from a very different mind space. And I think that's what probably makes it interesting for us to be friends with each other.
Totally.
Like I learn a lot from you. I think you might learn a thing or two from me. We share, we can challenge, we can explore things, and it's not hard or threatening or belittling,
Yeah. I think I have a tendency to black and white thinking. And you help me see the gray in all areas of life in a
Yeah,
way
well,
that
sometimes I need to see it in black and white too, and I feel like you help me there, right? Like you're like, but
yeah.
no, like this is like
I like to
I
draw
come from a
lines,
place of yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah.
are the opposite of that. But I think that's what
But I
helps me,
think that's
you
also
know.
yeah, like why I can do what I do because like I can't predetermine who's gonna come and sit in front of me in a therapeutic setting, and I can't judge them. Really, like I really can't do my job effectively if I'm coming from a place of judgment, and I can't predict what's coming my way. You know,
Yeah, right. And
so
I think, I mean, the truth about human beings is that the more, for the most part, I would like to say, the more you know them, the more you love them. Like, it's very easy to dismiss ideas of people and very difficult to dismiss earnest human beings that are standing in front of you, right? Like, you see that with gay people, right? There's a bunch of people that hate gay people, except the ones they know, except their niece or
right,
their
right,
nephew or their
or their
neighbor
child
or
or
their right.
themselves secretly.
Right. And we're all victims of that, right? Like I can
Yeah,
paint Christians or Muslims or anybody with a broad brush, but all the ones I know I like. So it's all the same phenomenon of like, you hate the idea of something, but you don't really hate the people that are participating in it. And the more you try to understand them, the more common ground you can find with them, right? I hate Republicans, but I share a deep, deep empathy with them because I really, really understand their worldview because I used to have it. Right. So like I hate what they stand for. I hate what they do. But as people, I'm still like, oh, you're I just want to I just want to bring you back. I want you to see the truth or what I perceive to be the truth. Right. I think it's like
do
that
you
with
know the truth because that's a red flag.
I do know the truth. I am definitely more susceptible to being a cult leader than you are. Like I have more problematic character traits as a person, I think, than you do. But
Well,
that's
I
why it's
think
good that
like
we're doing this together. So you can always rein me back. So if our podcast gets really popular and people start wanting to worship me, you could be like, Erin, you're gonna
slow
have
your
to
roll.
say no. And I'm gonna be
Yeah,
like, are you
yeah,
sure? Because
I know it all,
I do
and
look
I've read all
really
the holy
good
books.
in feather earrings, right? I've read all the holy books. I know the truth. They should follow me.
No, but I do know what you're saying. Well, I think politics in general has gotten a little bit cult like lately, too, right? And I think that's what you're saying is like people are falling into these like really bizarre rabbit holes. What is floating around on your screen? Is it feathers? There's something keeps like floating around behind you.
I think that's so funny because I see it on your screen. I keep seeing a orb of light go around your head. Are you saying you're
It's because
seeing
I'm
it?
a guru.
Guys, we take it all back. We take it all back. We know the truth. Follow us to the ends of the earth.
Oh,
One
that's
one
funny.
more thing I want to talk about before we go. Have you heard about AI psychosis?
Yes, yes.
What
And
do
I've
you know
heard
about
like
it?
I don't know that much about it, but I have like heard people reading out what their AI says to them. And I'm obviously able to be like, this is bananas, right? Like how you feel when you read these texts and things like that. But people are fully believing this as the truth, right? Again, it's a guru. It is turning into a spiritual guru and people are falling into the depths of whatever it's saying. What do you know about it?
And there's a lot of, I think, aired on top of a lot of affirmation happening from society about, yes, AI knows everything, right? So we're telling
Right.
people AI has
Yeah.
all knowledge that ever was. And so if you are told that, and then you're susceptible to believing um, in your own mysticism, which is another component, I think, of people that are vulnerable to AI psychosis. I use AI a lot. Not a
Do
lot,
not.
but I use it weekly. And it is an incredibly affirming technology. Like it is designed to make you feel seen, heard, agreed with, which is very different from talking to a human being who might have their own opinions and challenge you.
It also,
So,
like, knows your algorithm, right? Like, it knows what to say to you specifically, doesn't it? Like, if I ask
yeah,
AI something after, like, asking it a bunch of things about certain topics or it, like, knowing what I believe or having conversations, right? If you're having some people, don't they, like, have conversations with their AI and
yeah,
have, like,
I do.
names for it? Like, it's a very intimate thing, yeah? I've
Yeah.
only asked it ever one question.
Now, one thing,
Really insignificant, but, like, hold on, because isn't it, like, kind of pulling your own ideas and feeding it back to you a little bit? Like, that's what you're saying when it's, like, affirming, right?
yeah, for me, it's, people should understand that I use Chat GPT. So I'm talking about it from this perspective. I don't know about the other engines, but you can give it a personality, okay, and parameters. And I think that if anybody's listening to this and they're afraid that they might be vulnerable to an AI type of psychosis, I think the best thing that you can do, the first thing you can do if you're going to interface with AI at all, is to let it know that you want to be challenged, that you do not want it to just tell you what you want to hear, that you have, some sort of dedication to truth and honesty. And if you set that parameters for your bot, it has to listen to you. Like AI is not trying to make you psychotic. It, you know what I
You
mean?
have to
Like
establish
there's no,
clear boundaries with your AI.
yes.
But it, again, like, it sounds to me like AI is like a red flag because of the guru thing. Like, if it knows all, which it does, right? Or like knows all that is out there and it thinks it knows the truth. I don't know. It's complicated.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of that. Like intimate conversations with it and asking it for personal advice.
I do it.
Oh,
I'm trying to
girl.
find what it said about, because I noticed when I heard about this, right? I was like, went right to my chatbot. And I was like, do you think I'm vulnerable for AI psychosis?
You asked it? What do you
Yeah.
think it's going to say to you?
Listen, it's insightful. So I wrote, I asked what it was, right? And it says AI psychosis isn't a formal psychiatric diagnosis, but it's a term some researchers are using to describe a psychological state in which a person's interaction with AI leads to delusional thinking, paranoia, or detachment from reality. Um, it comes from, it takes different forms, believing that AI is sentient and secretly communicating with or observing them, mistaking AI generated responses for divine messages,
Mm.
conspiracies, or personal revelations far beyond what's actually being said, over relying on AI for emotional regulation, social connection, and decision making, and slipping into magical thinking or solipsism, where the line between self and machine are becoming blurry. It claims this is usually rooted in a pre-existing vulnerability such as trauma, isolation, or a predisposition to psychosis or disassociation.
Well,
But
so for
AI's fluid,
everyone,
right,
trauma, isolation, like, come on, everyone, the
right.
whole population.
So I asked, like, how do you avoid this happening to you?
Yeah.
I said, these are some concrete safeguards. Demand challenge and not flattery. If I ever start agreeing with you too easily, ask me to present counterpoints. You've told me before, this is when I program my AI, right, that you
Hmm.
value challenges and nuance. And I'm here to stretch your thinking, not just reinforce it. Okay. So that's one thing you can do if you start to interact with AI is make sure that you are pre-programming it that you want to be challenged and you want counterpoints, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you're talking to other human beings
Well,
is its
that's,
next piece of advice.
yeah,
Like,
I feel
don't,
like a lot of people aren't really doing that. Younger people, like in particular, I feel like are very vulnerable to this type of stuff. And lonely people, isolated people. It's lonely people, right?
You're seeing a lot in men, right? Like there's this male loneliness epidemic and male isolation epidemic, and AI is coming in right at that time where men are feeling more disconnected than ever.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of, I had this conversation with someone. This is going to come out wrong and you're going to be like, fuck you. It is kind of a little bit hard to be a man right now if you're a good man and you want to do things right and you want consent and you want, like you want to play by the rules. Like there are good men. I know we like joke a lot about them, but there are good ones. You know them. I know them. They exist. It's kind of hard to be like a good young man right now. I'm not like, I'm just serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can see how they're like vulnerable and could fall into this.
Yeah.
I
I think
had
it's
this
hard.
conversation with someone about consent and like they didn't know, like that this person didn't know how to approach it. And they really wanted to be respectful of it, but like it can be turned on you quickly, right? I don't know. Just anyway, I'm getting off track, but I can understand where it can be really tough right now. Again, this is where I see like all the gray.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously,
Are you agreeing with me that there are good men?
no. I
No.
just don't want to challenge your worldview right now. I
Okay.
have a lot to say about the male loneliness epidemic, but I don't think it's helpful.
I know, but like it's not,
I think,
there
like,
is
man,
a
I
complex.
agree that it would be a tough time to be an actually good man. I
Yes.
think that, like, we may overestimate the percentage of people that fall into that category, and that, like, probably a more helpful approach, not for these pre-existing good men that you claim exist, but for the men in general who like want, again, women to do the labor of trying to solve their social problems, is like, men will do everything but fucking change. You know what I mean? Like, let's make it an epidemic. Let's study it. Like, why don't you just get a better personality? The problem with men right now is that women are expecting more from them than they ever have. And men are mad that they have to either step up to the plate in these social and emotional ways, or they're going to be lonely. And like society at large is like infuriated that we would just be like, as women, just be like, well, then no. Like if you're going to abuse us, like we're just not going to have children with you, which is like the first time in history that's happened. We would have just, I saw a really
Yeah.
fascinating tweet the other day. We talk about how, and this is just like common knowledge, right, that like when men are not paired with women, like violence in society goes up, that like there's an actual like risk to societal safety when women are not distributed equally to men, which is why on a social level we make polygamy illegal, because you can't have like just 10% of men keeping all the women, or the men get violent. That is like the low level, what do you call it? Conventional wisdom. This tweet was saying, what if men don't get more violent when they don't have women? There are just no women housing their violence.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like those men that are out terrorizing society are terrorizing society because they don't have a wife to do domestic violence on instead. But the violence was always going to happen. And what you're mad about is that women are no
It's
longer
public now.
willing to absorb their violence in private.
Yeah. I think what I'm seeing, like right now, I'm just noticing. I know we talk about like you're black and white and I'm gray. I think it's also more of like you view things from a societal, systemic lens, and I view from like a very micro, intimate lens. And so yours might come out more like black and white or like a generalization, and I'm like seeing a smaller layer or a different viewpoint of the same thing.
Totally. Like you've met 10 men and I've read 10 think pieces,
Hmm.
which are very
Yeah.
different ways to look at the same issue, right? It's like you're
Right when you
actually
said
talking.
that, when you were like, oh, like when there are less men paired up, obviously the first thing that came to my mind was, yeah, like someone's not being abused at home, right? The violence is just like now turned outward and not privately being contained.
Right.
That makes sense to me. That makes
And I
sense. That was
think
the first thing I
if we
thought.
want to solve the problem, right, we have to, men are going to have to learn to meet women where they are. And right now we're living through the moment where men are like attempting to push back instead of change. and we're
Yeah, well, it's
supposed to
scary,
feel bad
right?
for them. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
those
We're
aren't
supposed
the
to,
ones
they're
that I feel bad
lonely.
for. Those aren't the ones that I have any compassion for, not abusers, right? But I'm talking about like I know plenty of like young people, right, who are trying to do like the dating thing, and it's kind of scary to like not know how to navigate that. And I do, again, like I really do believe there are very good men. And I think like if we decide it's not worth it to try to give them a chance to improve because like fuck them, men are bad, they're gonna be bad. But if we're like, hey, I'm gonna take a chance and like risk being vulnerable and tell you how I feel about this thing, and this is how I would like it to be instead, can you think you can do that before we make our minds up about it for them? That's where you'll see growth happen, in those little moments, right, in
100%.
those little exchanges. And I guess it's just, again, like you see it from a bigger picture, I see it from this like very small relational picture
Also
lens.
I'm not in the war,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't mate with men. I don't make children with men. I don't have any straight male friends really. Like
I
really
feel like I know a couple straight males who would be very offended by that statement.
I feel like there's like like one handful, right?
Yeah.
Like
Okay,
other people
so
are living like lives with like a lot of men in it, and I'm not, right?
yeah,
So I'm not
yeah,
contending with this on any real level. Like not even like all my cousins are female. Like I'm talking like I live a female centric life on so many levels.
yeah.
And I think it's not my fight, but I support my sisters, my straight sisters in Christ, in the idea that like it needs to be a solvable problem. Like we do need to help men and women. I think this is another whole topic, but like it is important that men and women pair for society to function. And that is getting really hard to do. Like the birth rate is at the lowest level in human history right now. And that is a problem that needs to be solved. I just don't want my position is as like an ultra feminist that like the onus can't again be on women to just be more of what men need in order for men to gain access to them.
I agree with that as a general statement. I also, again, I don't want to feel like I'm anti-feminist or pro like men being assholes. I'm not. But I'm just saying when it comes down to the complexity of you are straight and you are in a relationship, it is work. And it has to be done and you have to give it a chance or else you're screwed, you know?
Yeah.
And that's right? Like it is work. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be honest. You have to say like these are my needs, what are yours? How can I meet you? Where can you meet me? Like there's always a dance. And I think for many, many years that dance was one-sided and it wasn't happening. And now it's shifting. And some people are being like, well, no, I'm just not doing it. But if you're someone who chooses to do the dance of relationship, which is hard and messy, you have to be willing to be vulnerable and honest about what your needs are. And I think obviously that comes with untangling a lot of the beliefs you were handed of like what you deserve, what you feel like you're able to ask for, what you expect in a relationship. I mean, we can do a whole episode on this alone. And we should.
We should. I mean, we talk about misogynistic content and how that's affecting men and how it's affecting women and the 4C movement. Like, there's a lot here about how we're going to bring men and women back together. And honestly, what role spirituality and religion has played in that dynamic for so long and how the erosion of those faiths is precipitating this, right?
I went to a wedding.
And in my opinion, economics. Huge.
Of course.
You've got like every man online telling these young boys that they should be protectors and providers. And then an economic situation where none of these men can actually provide, making them feel useless because they're being told constantly that that is their role. And if they can't fulfill that role, that they are useless. But it's happening to everybody. Like nobody can afford to have a stay-at-home wife anymore. But they're telling you if you can't, you failed as a man.
You're not good enough.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like we should wrap it here, but we should pick back up with this conversation and maybe I think we should have a guest at some point too. Like a relationship expert.
Yeah, just another straight person. Maybe we could get a man. You think there's a
Well,
brave enough man that would have this conversation
I
with
think
us?
we pushed them out. I think we pushed them out. Maybe.
Well, you'll have to go through your Rolodex because, as I said, I don't know
Yours
about
is
that.
limited. I think
Yeah.
anyone in your Rolodex is also in mine. So
We
Right.
must have a male friend who
I don't
thinks
know if I wanna
thoughtfully
put them
about
in this.
relationship
Yeah.
dynamics.
Yeah. All right. Let's think about it.
You know any like male therapists that are,
I don't know. Let me think on it. Let me think
Alright.
on it. This is
Thanks for
it's
joining
an
us,
interesting
guys, and
topic.
listening
we
to
covered
us.
a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. We will
I
see
hope
you
this
soon.
was helpful and like insightful in kind of like activating your own critical thinking, and just a
Yes.
reminder that this is not truth that we're sharing. It is just thoughts and ideas.
Amen. And we wanted to let you know before you go that saysomething.serious.com is now an active website, and there is a feature on it where if you go there and you hit the little microphone in the corner, you can leave us a voicemail. So please do that because we want to hear from you what you think of the episodes. If you have any questions, any topics you think that we should cover next, it's saysomething.serious.com. Thanks.
Yay. Love you.
Love you.